Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for the technical difficulties that we had there for a few moments. What I'd like to do is take this opportunity to thank you for joining us. We are going to be having a little discussion about homebound instruction and how that works and what we do. We also have a guest speaker. Jason is going to share a little bit about what Wissahickon is doing with us and how that's working. And I probably should turn my camera on so you can see us. Wow, all kinds of technical difficulties here today to get going. This is crazy. That's why we like to practice. Good thing this is our first one because we're going to be getting it down pat by the time we get through the rest of our series that we're looking to produce here. We're here today again, not hospitalization, but the Homebound program that we pulled together. We've been working with a variety of different vendors, as most of you know. And so with our vendors, what we have is we have a solution that allows us to offer the 4 core subjects for a weekly price. And so what we've done is we've reached out to a couple of schools to see how is this going to work, and is anybody interested in doing this? And Jason at Wissahickon, Bielka, has been working with us to try this out to see how it's going to look like. So Jason, you want to take a few minutes and just describe what it is that you're doing in Wissahickon so that everybody can hear what you're doing?
Sure. So our biggest challenge with Homebound was typically what we do is we would do Homebound for 5 subjects. We would do four content areas and then a world language typically. But what was happening was we were either A, having a hard time getting enough homebound tutors to provide the instruction, or B, we would have tutors go to the home and the student wasn't feeling well enough and would have to send them away to be rescheduled at a later date. And this was problematic because the students really weren't, for reporting purposes, the students were not getting 5 hours of actual instruction with like an adult giving them tutoring, so to speak. And that was becoming more problematic when we had a couple of different cases with kids that were chronically ill, and just there were different times a day that they could be productive, and they were often not at the same time as when our physical homebound tutor was present. So last year was our first year where we actually took kind of a semester-long course from Edgenuity, from one of the programs here, and we did a semester-long course for one of our students on homebound instruction. And it went well because he could work at any time. The instruction did not have to take place during, typically for most of our homebound tutors, that's somewhere in that 3:30 to 6 o'clock range. And now this gave flexibility. If the student did better in the mornings, he was completing more work. So essentially he did a whole lot more work when we were giving him this online option than when he was doing things face to face. And that's where we expanded this year now to more the homebound solution, where we're signing up. I think we have currently right now 3 students on homebound, and they're getting, we program out weeks worth of content for them, depending how long the homebound instruction is going to be for, and they can work at their own pace. So if there's a day that they can work 4 hours, then they work 4 hours, because ultimately in just doing some reading up through the state, they have to complete 5 hours a week. It doesn't state specifically that it's 1 hour per content area, which is what we used to do when we had a person present, but they just had to get their 5 hours a week. So honestly, if they did, front loaded it and got a lot of work done and then had some bad days, it really didn't affect their homebound status. So that's been kind of our biggest success. With how it works for us is what we do is we take the syllabus that's provided by the MCIU on a course. I then turn the syllabus, if we have a student who's going to be on homebound for, let's say, 4 weeks, I'll turn the syllabus over to his biology teacher, and the biology teacher will go through and select the content from the syllabus that most closely matches what they'd be covering for those 4 weeks. We do not, and there's a little bit of adjustment for our teachers. Some of our teachers really wanted to send in their supplemental work that they would be doing in their courses. And I guess you could do that. And we said, I told our teachers that you can send that along, but the expectation is that they can use that to look at, but they don't have to complete it. They'll be completing the online work. And the reason we did that was because if we can't guarantee I can provide a teacher who can provide that instruction for that student-specific work, I couldn't hold them accountable for that work. Whereas with the online courses, they have access to resources, they have access to online teachers that they can turn to for help if they're struggling with the course content, and that's available to them at all times throughout different parts of the day. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and we're kind of getting over, you know, the bumps just from it being a transition from what we've done for so many years to what we're doing now. We are only doing this currently at the high school, and I think your Homebound goes down to middle school, correct? That'll be something that, you know, as we continue to test out here, possibly bringing down to the middle school level. But really it fit our need because of just the types of illnesses our students have on Homebound, or at least the students we've had over the past 2 years, have really just not worked well with the face-to-face setup at a really prescripted time.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. You did an excellent job of describing that. I have muted all of you. If anybody has any questions for Jason, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question at this time.
I don't know if the question is for Jason or Jeff, but what are the courses that you can choose from? So, you know, you might teach biology in a different school year. So what are the courses available?
I'll go ahead and answer that. Basically, Kim, what we do is we provide it's the course. So any of the core courses that the grade level would be in, for instance, if they were in 9th grade, they might be taking an algebra, or they might be taking a higher level math at that point. They'll be doing some sort of an ELA, science, and a social studies. So you get to pick the 4 core courses that you would like to offer. We don't want to, we kind of stay away from the electives when they're in a homebound situation, unless you're going to move to a full-time enrollment for the student because of the cost that's involved with that. But again, all the 4 courses, and like Jason said, we basically start at the 6th grade level and go up with this program at this time. We're exploring what it might look like in the lower grades at this point, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. We're just getting our feet wet with this. Other questions? Great question.
Thank you.
I have a question. You ready?
Sure.
The alignment of the courses, because I heard Jason say you check, like you do check marks of the content, like that's covered. Is that how that works?
Correct. So, and the alignment can be a little bit tricky because obviously they're based on standards, but in a biology so far, in our biology, math, or really general science, any science, math, and we have not had any issues really aligning the content because those are really very skills driven, I guess. Some of the labs that they will have obviously don't necessarily apply, but the skills themselves are pretty aligned. Even in social studies, everybody's social studies curriculum is probably just a little bit different, but through the students we've had this year, the teachers have not had a problem matching those up. The biggest issue that I've found will be language arts for sure, because language arts, the skills are going to be the same, but language arts teachers are very dependent upon their novels and their short stories and their nonfiction texts. And now all of a sudden you don't have those, you have different short stories, novels, plays, whatever have you. But in terms of, that's where they've really got to rethink how my teachers match the skills up. What are the skills? Okay, you're reading Romeo and Juliet. That's great. But what are the skills? And if it's, what's in a Shakespearean drama, well then, I think in one of our courses, they weren't necessarily, they weren't doing Romeo and Juliet, but they found some sort of drama unit, and then there was a Shakespeare component. So we did our best to kind of piece together, but that's where we've run into probably that there's just a little discrepancy in terms of matching up the content, just because language arts is very much reliant on their texts, whereas other courses are really more focused on the skills, so to speak.
Yeah, all of the content that we offer is PA core aligned, and so if your curriculum is anywhere close to the PA core, then you can basically pick and choose throughout the scope and sequence of what you want to have in the content for the duration of what the program is.
And what I did do is, in the first student we put on the Homebound solution this year, I ended up doing a fourth course. Now I can't think off the top of my head, but it wasn't, I don't believe it was one of the contents. Maybe we did like, I don't know if it was Spanish or something. We did some other course. Oh, you know what it was? She was doubling up in math. That's what it was. So she had geometry and algebra too. So we had her completing both of those along with bio and social studies. Those were the 4 cores. And then her English, I actually hired just a homebound tutor in person to go there and do that. So that aligned a little bit. So that could always be a possibility if you're concerned about a particular course alignment. You do your 4, find you can plug in that 4th content area. And Jeff really, if you take a look at all the different, it is an extensive list of courses that are available. So yeah, you'll find something for everybody's schedule. I've no doubt about it on that list. So we were able to find a 4th course for her and then just make the English language arts in person.
Thanks. Anybody else have a question for Jason? Awesome. Well, a little bit about this. As you know, I was a teacher for a long time, 22 years in the classroom, and there were several opportunities where I was asked to go and do homebound instruction in the homes. And one of the problems and the particular challenges is, not only for you, but also for families, is meeting that schedule. And, with schools, with the districts, it depends on the illness. It depends on what the injury may be, to how much work the student can do, as with regards to, the recovery time and how much impact that's going to impact their progress towards grade achievement and graduation. So what we've done is, I was looking at our programming and saying, instead of just me going out as one teacher and trying to cover 4 subject matter with that student in a couple hours on a weekly basis, and how much the district was paying me to do that, what I tried to do was create a program that would provide the 4 core subject matter and offer it at a price that would be very close or reasonably close to what you would be paying for just one teacher to go out, where we're now giving you the 4 core teachers that are going to be working with the student. And as Jason said, we're looking at this to be most cost effective and the highest quality. I will say that the course work that we use is very, very rigorous. It is probably more rigorous than sometimes what you're going to see in your own schools. And that makes it nice, because what we can do is we can take that rigor and we can pare it down a little bit, or we can make modifications to it in order for it to meet the student's needs. Like we said, we're right now running this with our 6th through 12th grade students that are in our homebound program. We can provide instructional supports also for students with IEPs, as well as 504 plans. We can make modifications. Now, we can't go into the house and do the physical therapy or that kind of manipulation, or if they need speech, those things. But we certainly can make accommodations for extra tries, a little extra time needed for things. The program does have the capability of, if they want it to be read out loud as well. So again, our homebound program will provide customized courses for you to match your district's pricing, a pacing grade. So again, what will happen is Ann will provide you with a scope and sequence. And Ann, I'm going to, by the way, this is Ann Drouse. So if you haven't met Ann before, so you know what she looks like. And on my team also, this is Whitney. So
hey, how are you?
Whitney is also part of our program. And they can hear you through mine.
Oh yeah, hi.
So Ann, I'm going to have you share, can you go in and share a page real quick with everybody?
Yeah, let me see that. So I got to do my and I'm going to share out.
Scope and sequence.
Let me find it. Here it is. Jason, Molly, you guys have seen this. So this is what we would send you, and we ask that you have your subject matter teacher go through and cross off the material where the student is, and get it back to us and we'll align the course. Just ask that you're going to be taking out either a full unit, this full unit here, or a lesson. I can't take out just lesson objectives. I can't just take out, like, say, this here. I have to take off this entire lesson. I hope that makes sense. I can't really granularly get it down to the lesson objective, but to the lesson we can. So you send this back to us all marked up, and we'll make the changes for you. Jason, I know when we worked with your student this year, it was only in for, I think, 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was a 3-week enrollment. So it was somewhere, maybe page 2 or 1.5 down here. And then there was just a few lessons, not very much. I think it's fair to say, this isn't the course, but let's just say this is kind of all we had turned on maybe for that student for those couple of weeks, because they were taking other courses as well. So it's just we can slice it to meet the needs of the student.
Yep, that's true.
Any questions about how we make the modifications with the courses?
And I'll say that the teachers for certain content areas really appreciate something like this, because if you tell us, they're going on Homebound for, 6 weeks, and for them to then go back through and try to collect all that information, for some of them, it's really easy to just go through the syllabus instead and highlight the areas to cover versus trying to gather all that material and trying to get it out. So that was a plus.
It sounds like you heard from some students. I wonder what it looks like from the student end. What is it that they experience? Do they seem to like it as well?
Somebody else.
Speak a little louder. Somebody was asking a question.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was wondering about the student experience. I know you've had kids do it. Have you had feedback from them? What does it look like from the student end? Anybody can answer that, but.
Sure. So I'll speak to something, and I would have definitely spoken to that because Jeff brought it up. The students perceive it as more rigorous than what they would typically do. I think some of our homebound kids are kind of repeat homebound kids, and they're used to, I don't know how to say this, but quite honestly, not doing that much work. Really, the 5 hours a week, the 1 hour per subject area that they were getting, that was kind of all they were doing. And then some minimal stuff on the side. So this really the way that we kind of had it designed. I mean, if you wanted to keep pace with what you wanted to do, you needed to be working 2 hours a day in math or 1 hour a day in math instead of 1 hour a week in math. So that was kind of the feedback that I've gotten so far, is it was a little bit more challenging than what some kids that have done Homebound before were used to. But for our kids that have never been on Homebound, they're really, they didn't really say much. What I like about it is it develops a pacing guide for the students for what to do. And we've been using this program or similar program for summer school for a number of years. So I got to see it there firsthand. I mean, it keeps them apprised of where they are at all times, which is nice. They know what their grade is. They know how much they've completed thus far and how much they have left to complete. I think I've only had one instance of one student kind of having an issue with it being on the computer all the time. They just said it was kind of hard because they're consistently on the computer. My feeling is if he probably put down the computer, he's probably on his cell phone the rest of the time anyway. But that was the only thing I really got as far as, I don't want to say a negative, but just not used to being exposed to the computer as much as they were being at a certain time.
Good, thank you. That was excellent feedback. Thank you.
Just another question about while they're working. If they're working on that particular content and unit and they're stuck, what is the interaction between the teacher, and how they get past maybe where they're stuck?
And I can certainly jump in here and answer that question for you. One of the things is that there is a teacher of record for the four courses. So you're going to have 4 different teachers of record. They each have office hours every day. So they can go into those office hours and request help that way. There's also a student support button that's on the screen. And from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., Monday through Sunday, that button is available for them to click on for them to get immediate support with a chat window An educator will come in and work with them one-on-one through a chat window. So it's like raising your hand in class, basically, for the students. Availability for them to be able to get that immediate response back from them. So those are the two that we have there. And then again, they are also informed that they can reach out to us at MVP, and Ann and Whitney will certainly direct them toward somebody that could get them the answer that they need, or provide them with the supports that they may also have.
Thanks. That is good.
Great. All right. A little bit more about our program then. What we basically do is, as Jason did share, is that this is a program that can work from 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We've had students in it for 7, 8, as long as you need to have the student in there. And again, what we charge is we're charging $180 a week for the 4 core courses. So you're getting 4 cores, 4 teachers, 4 supports. You're getting the MVP supports for $180 a week to support the students in this program. I can tell you that we're trying it at this price because we definitely are not making, we're not even breaking even for quite a few weeks into the program, but we felt that this was a service that we wanted to provide to our districts and give them an opportunity to try it out, and we'll see how it works. The more people we get in it, the more successes that we hear. We'll try to expand it down to the lower grades as well. So does anybody else that's online, is there anybody that's online who has some experiences with Homebound, and how's that working for them? Would anybody be willing to jump in and share that at this point? Come on, somebody's got to share what they're doing with Homebound.
I haven't done Homebound for a couple years, Jeff, but I would say we ran at North Penn, we run into the same struggles that they're running into at Wissahickon. It's finding the certified teachers willing to go out and do one hour per subject per week. So if you are able to provide courses, or you have math teachers that aren't qualified to teach Calc 2 or whatever it is, it's just finding the teachers to be able to do that. It was our struggle.
Right. I think that's everybody's struggle at this point. Everybody's got time. Time is the biggest issue, and with teachers, it's finding the time, finding those teachers that are willing to be able to do that, and getting them to be able to share with that. We didn't get a chance at the beginning because of all of the technical difficulties, but if everybody could go around and introduce yourself and tell us, your name, what school district you're from, and what are your responsibilities at your school district, that we would appreciate it. Jason, can we start with you?
Sure. So I'm one of the assistant principals at Wissahickon High School, and Homebound kind of falls under my purview, as well as I work with a school counselor, one of our school counselors, to kind of organize and set up all the courses for our students.
Thank you.
Kim,
Mark?
I'm sorry.
Kim, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I thought we were going north.
We're all just bringing it up.
Good, Kim.
Kim Bass, Director of Curriculum and Instruction at Springford.
Tina Weinenball, 9th grade principal at Springford.
Hi, I'm Marty Pennebaker. I work at Northbridge Credit Recovery Program, and I do cyber school for the district also.
Good. Well, thank you. We didn't take the full hour. It only took us about 30 minutes. But if there aren't any questions, or does anybody have any questions about, we wanted to make this a community opportunity to share and talk about what your schools are doing. So I really want to open it up and say, is there anybody who wants to talk about what you're doing? Like at Springfield, what are you doing there?
Springford?
Springford.
Yes, same thing. We use an online program. We don't use this one, but it's difficult to get teachers of record. So we've worked through like Eduseer or our online program, virtual online program. It depends on the time that the student is out, because sometimes it's 2 weeks, but sometimes it's 4 weeks, or 2 months. So that's the route we've kind of gone because it's very difficult to get the teachers.
Thank you. Kim, since we're at Springford, do you want to jump in there as well?
No, actually, I have one more question, shockingly. How easy is it for us to enroll? So we call and we say, Jeff, I have a student who needs Homebound. I loved what I heard. Get me started.
Well, first, what we need is we need an MOU.
Okay.
We're going to work with you as a district. And once we have the MOU in place, then basically what we do is we'll send out a liaison form to you to say, you know, who in your district are we going to work with? Who would you like us to contact for certain questions regarding administration, guidance, billing, you know, those kinds of things. Once that's set up, what we do is we set up an account for you to log into our webpage. So our website actually has a hidden section to it that once you get your own username and password, you can access the enrollment section. And the enrollment section is basically just one big page that you would go through and you would fill out the information. And once you hit submit, that goes to all of us, and we'll be in touch usually the same day to find out what the situation is and, you know, exactly what we'll confirm before we enroll anybody in anything. And then once you're enrolled, we'll send you the scope and sequence right away. And as soon as you get the scope and sequence back to us, usually takes about a day and a half maybe for us to process the scope and sequence. And usually within 2 days after all of that's done, the student can be in and working. So again, it's not a very long process, not a very complicated process. And basically that is the steps that we would go through to get a student enrolled. We would ask for you to say, give us an estimate to say, is this going to be a 2-week, a 3-week, a 6-week, or whatever? You're not held to that in any way, shape, or form. So if the student, you say, oh, we need this for 4 weeks, and the student comes back in 2, we will only bill you for the 2 weeks that the student's in. So we're trying to make it as flexible as possible and user-friendly as possible for everybody that's using it.
We build
and then, yeah,
and the longest part of the process has to be, and I think Jason and maybe Marty, because I know we've done some things, is getting the scope and sequences back from the teachers. That's usually the longest part. Not so much our end. Is it, guys? Is it our end? Or is it your end that's slower?
Yeah, I mean, that's and our teachers have been pretty good about it, and I definitely have to give a lot of props to Ann. And if you do decide to pursue this, Ann's kind of your go-to. And anytime I've called Ann, emailed Ann, she's immediately emailed me back, calling me back. If it needs clarification, I feel Ann and I have gotten to know each other very well over the past like 5 months. But Ann, you've been extremely helpful through the process and are always there to assist. So I hope I'm not setting you up here for you're going to get 100 calls from, you know, various school districts, but you definitely make this a whole lot easier to do, because in the beginning it is overwhelming because you're making that transition to go from one to the next, and you definitely help with that process, and I know you'll assist everybody else too.
Thank you, Jason. I know that Ann appreciates those kind words, but I can tell you that you're not the only one. I think Marty could probably have repeated those exact words to you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
She's on the phone with Marty all the time as well.
Oh yeah, every day.
I will say that one of the tenets of our program has been support, and I constantly am, you know, sharing with all of our support people that we try to get responses immediately back to everybody as much as we can. We are growing kind of exponentially. I keep saying that, but again, we did a partnership with Colonial IU up in the Poconos and adding their schools on. And we also are now out in Juniata County, Susquehanna County, Lancaster County, Southern Fulton County. Fulton County, I think we're supporting about 60 schools, all said and told, with a lot of students, and it keeps growing. So we just added Whitney on. And so Whitney over here, she's going to be, she's new to the team, but she's going to be picking up and supporting Ann and our program as we continue to grow. And as we grow, we'll continue to add on support and make sure that the support level stays at the level that you're used to receiving. So appreciate all those kind words. Did we get through everybody? Introducing everybody? I believe so. Okay. Any other questions that anybody may have? again, we're looking forward to, if you want more details or you want to talk one-on-one with us, we'd be willing to come out and meet face-to-face with you. That's, one of the things that I do. I come out to the districts, meet with you, sit down with you, plan with you, try to coordinate and figure out how things are going to work. If you need me to bring Ann along to talk about the back end and the management side of stuff, I bring her along a lot as well. So we can meet your needs as easily as you want us to be there for you. So again, we thank you for coming on today. And
wait 1 second. I got it. So February 5th, we have our unit and credit recovery series. We'll have that meeting then. That'll be at 1 o'clock also. So February 5th, we'll send out an invite for that. And also March 12th, we are going to have course advancement and dual enrollment. So if either of those two things interest you, make sure you attend. And we will have a featured speaker like we have Jason today. So thank you, Jason. We will have someone for each one of those. And I don't have my notes with me. I forget who they are. So yeah, forget who they are. But we do have someone.
right. And the other thing is that if you hadn't heard about the dual enrollment, we just partnered with Arizona State University. So we're offering about 120 dual enrollment, and that's going to look different with every school setup that we have. The other thing that I'd like to remind you of is we are going to have a lovely lunch and learn in January, on January the 17th here at the IU. Ingenuity is sponsoring a wonderful lunch. We'll go from about 11:30 to 1. And again, we have a bunch of featured speakers that will be coming in.
One of which is Marty.
Yes.
I'll be there.
Which of them is Marty, who will be sharing and talking about different aspects of each of their schools and how their program works. It's going to be more of the districts talking and sharing what they're doing than it is going to be us standing up and presenting what our program is, because I think everybody's kind of getting familiar with what MVP is. We want to hear what other people are doing, how they're doing it, and what's working for them in their districts. So we want to share and spread the wealth of how we can make things easier for everybody. Oh, one other thing I'll throw in here. I don't know if you've talked to your superintendent since last week, but at the superintendent's meeting, there was a big discussion around the fact of how do we accommodate students that want to start late. They want to come into school. They want to change the schedule. And it did come out and eventually through discussions and conversation that we may need to start looking at maybe 1 or 2 courses and offering them to students that want to come in late in an online environment, or to instead of trying to change the whole structure of how we run schools. So again, maybe thinking about that as an opportunity for you to consider something else. And if anytime anybody has a need in an online environment, regardless of what it is, please reach out to us. We will certainly be able to try and find you a solution and help you fit your needs. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
And we'll record, this was recorded. So again, we'll put it up on the web if anybody else wants to jump back in and hear it again. All right. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.